Hey, give me a second. Now I hope the voice is audible. Hey, I was not on mute. I don't know. There was some issue. Now, am I audible now? Am I audible now? Yeah, now I'm audible. Okay. Troubleshooting. Engineering life. So I guess cheers everyone once again. I hope now I am audible. So sorry about the disturbance that happened. But again, कोई बात नहीं यार हम लोग ऐसे सीख लेंगे so just talking about something that DevOps. I hope many of you must have encountered this keyword DevOps before, and you must be wondering what is this DevOps is a tool, DevOps is a technology, many other aspects. Many of people also think that DevOps is nothing but a developer and operational job. This buzz, I believe, DevOps engineer is a role that is amongst the top 10 IT job role for 2021. And many of you must be aspiring to become a DevOps engineer as well. So इस वीडियो में what I have tried is कि मेरा जो experience है, मेरी जो learnings हैं throughout my professional career, I have accumulated all the resources with the help of my team, and I have created a roadmap for you. So that I'll also share towards the end that how this roadmap looks like. What I have tried to do is I have given you a different perspective कि DevOps होता क्या है, DevOps आप कैसे अगर आप अपना करियर स्टार्ट करते हो तो DevOps इंजीनियर की तरह कैसे स्टार्ट करना चाहिए, what are the key essential checks. But before that, I would love to hear from you all that what according to you DevOps mean. So I'll be more than happy if you all can just bring up your questions in the comment section, and more than happy if you can respond to me what DevOps means to you. So for me, if I have to say, DevOps is nothing but a combination of cultural philosophies, practices, and tools that increases an organization's ability to deliver and to develop application and services at higher velocity. So basically evolving and improving products at the faster pace than organization using the traditional software development and infrastructure management processes. I have been hearing this definition on the Wikipedia and everywhere, but what I understood is that if I'm an organization, if I'm a company who wants a method, if I want to adapt some practices that can enhance my customer experience, can have a value add on so that my customer feel ki, yes, I am somewhere effectively competing in the market, how I can help them to be the digital disruptors in their market. So these are some of the phenomena which I keep on understanding and hearing from the crowd. What I have tried to do is I have given you a different perspective of DevOps for today. So let's simply get started. DevOps Roadmap presents you from Cheers with Gaurav. So this particular session, I'm going to talk about the two personas. One will be your students and other will be the professionals. This is absolutely based on my experiences and learning I had throughout my professional career. So I'll try to iterate some of the values. आप agree करते हो, it's good. If you are not agreeing, it's absolutely cool as well. So let's see. If I have to talk about DevOps, we just understood it's not about development or operationals, or it's more nothing related to कि भाई अगर आप developer हो तो आप DevOps कर सकते हो या operations हो तभी आप DevOps कर सकते हो. What I understood from my understanding is that DevOps is a methodology, DevOps is a best practices, DevOps is a mindset, or rather I should say a DevOps engineer is a person who has the responsibility to bring this collab developers and operationals all together to bring an organization efficiency. Let's take about this is a myth that DevOps is a tool or DevOps is a technology to be learned. No, it is a mindset. It is a philosophy to be adopted. It is a set of practices that enhance your capabilities according to capabilities in comparison to your competitors who are not adopting it. So let's take one step ahead. I always believe DevOps can be for developer, can be for admin. Now, if you put yourself in a, what I should say, if you can put down yourself in the shoes of a developer, कि अगर assume करो कि अगर तुम developer हो, तो एक DevOps engineer को developers के लिए क्या-क्या समझना चाहिए? Very foremost thing is how developers work. तुम्हें सबसे पहले ये चीज पता होना चाहिए as a DevOps engineer that what according to you developer will be thinking. What is basically a developer's means to you, how developers are working, how they create the application. We have to understand their mindset. The second and most important part is understand their workflow. Now, when I say workflow, What typically workflow means is that how they are pulling their code, what kind of repository they are using, where they are keeping their code, how they are creating the code, what kind of tools they are using to create the code. Because you as a DevOps engineer, to bridge the gap between an operational fellow where you are going to give them the infrastructure, this is very much important to understand. The third key category plays important role for a DevOps engineer in the developer side is how application is configured. This is very much important क्योंकि application configuration तुम्हें बहुत सारे identification hints देती हैं कि where these libraries needs to be included, what kind of developers tools you require to configure, what kind of application developers are dealing with, what kind of dependencies they have, they want to check, what kind of infrastructure you have to provision for them. Last but not the least, this is my favorite part. If application is created, it is developed, is there any way to do the automated testing that is involved before? This is very much important to understand कि अगर कोई भी एप्लीकेशन क्रिएट हुई है, क्या उसमें ऑटोमेटेड टेस्टिंग है, या कोई हम कंपाइलर यूज कर रहे हैं, या थर्ड पार्टी एप्लीकेशन यूज करेंगे टू टेस्ट दैट एप्लीकेशन. So these are the four broader categories. I have figured it out. If you want to be a DevOps engineer and work in to bring the collaboration from a developer shoe, you have to understand these four keywords. Now let's talk about the operational fellows, the other side, हमारे भाई लोग, and personally my favorite because I don't belong to the developer side, but definitely this operational fellows has the major problem to deal with is the server deployment. किस तरह का server है, what kind of infrastructure a developer would be requiring, or rather how I'm going to produce the best outcome from the developers. सबसे important चीज ये चीज समझो कि when you are a DevOps engineer, you have to also guide your like your entire organization, what kind of server deployment would be ideal for your application to run seamlessly. Second, infrastructure involved. क्योंकि अब इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में बहुत सारी चीजें आ जाती हैं कि आप किस तरह का ओएस यूज कर रहे हो, क्लाउड यूज करोगे, बेयर मेटल यूज करोगे, वर्चुअलाइजेशन यूज करोगे, किस तरह के राउटर स्विचेस कॉन्फ़िगर्ड होंगे, मल्टी क्लाउड स्ट्रैटेजी इन्वॉल्व होगी, हाइब्रिड क्लाउड स्ट्रैटेजी इन्वॉल्व होगी. दे आर गोइंग टू हैव लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स दैट यू नीड टू गाइड एज अ DevOps engineer. Third point, when you are working as a DevOps engineer and you are working as a supporting to operational fellows, more important, you have to understand the basics of networking and security. How the website is working, how the infrastructure is being accessed, what kind of route the application traffic is flowing, how to optimize those tracks. So all these questions need to be understood. The fourth and the foremost part, compatibility with OS. You should be compatible to handle the different distribution of operating systems that are available. Majorly Linux, क्योंकि हर तरह के cloud environment में, या मैं बोलूँ DevOps में, जब हम लोग production environment में जाते हैं, Linux is highly involved. So you need to deal with the different distributions of Linux environment itself. Also Windows बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है क्योंकि हर एक क्लाइंट लिनक्स यूज नहीं करेगा. So you also need to understand the basic concepts in terms of, like, let's say socket programming or configuring a firewall, how to enable and disable the services, how to create the users, basic operations of every single server deployments OS तुम्हें पता होने ही चाहिए. I believe this is the foremost part. Now majorly you all would be thinking कि यार ये तो सारा operational fellow हो गए, like these must be the operation people will be doing, why I should be coming out of these world. So you have to understand there is a very thin line between a DevOps engineer and an IT operational fellow. DevOps engineer understand the basic operational understandings. On the other side, the IT operational fellow, there are different roles associated to it. Like there will be a system admin who knows how to deal with the Linux operating system and Windows operating systems. There are some security experts. There are some network admin, but network admin job role is restricted to only configuring the networking devices, the firewall devices or the routers. The security concern will only be talking about the security parameters. System admin will just only talking about the system layer. But you as a DevOps engineer have to deal with all these people. So you need to understand the basic operational efficiency, that what kind of operations they might require. बहुत डीप में नहीं जाना है, but basic understanding आप लोगों को होनी ही चाहिए if you are willing to pursue as a DevOps engineer. Now, talking about the next keyword before we jump onto the actual roadmap, the most important part, containers. I guess सब लोग container से आज के टाइम में सब लोग जुड़े हैं. Yes, container is the new buzzword in the market, but I will highly recommend you all to take a step back before you start on your journey talking about containerization. Hey, look, there is a very thin line difference between virtualization and containerization. Ab virtualization है isolation of hardware. whether containerization is isolation of processes. तो हर एक एप्लीकेशन कंटेनराइज नहीं की जा सकती है, हर एक वीएम को कंटेनर नहीं बनाना है. So you have to be understanding the architecture where actually containers are required, where virtualization is required. Every single place you cannot go ahead and talk about, hey, you adopt containers and you will create the wonders. No, there is an application like creation. The architecture depends whether it is created in a way कि वो microservices adapt कर लेगा. And that's why I said कि starting के अंदर, why I said the most important part is जब आप लोग DevOps engineer bante ho, the very foremost and the most important part, which I started talking about, when you as a developer shoe, when you wear a developer shoe, you need to understand the application architecture. Now you know why I said that there is a thin line or a differentiation between the virtualization and the containerization. So containerization, definitely the real value of containers are the portability. But does the application support that? Does the objective of my organization is to isolate the processes? Most important to understand before you step into advice that, hey, you go ahead and start taking containerization. Okay, so these are the few things. Now, the very foremost part or the starting cycle for DevOps is code. तो अगर आपका ये क्वेश्चन है कि यार मैं तो DevOps इंजीनियर हूँ, मैं कोडिंग से पीछा छुड़ा करके यहाँ आया था, I was not interested, I hate coding, I don't know how to code. Here I also need to do the code. Absolutely no. I'm not asking you to do the code like the typical coders does. But you as a DevOps engineer definitely doesn't mean that you need not to do the coding at all. Because there is a lot of things that you as a DevOps engineer has responsibilities on your shoulder. The foremost part, you might be requested to write down some of the scripts. And when you write down the scripts, you have to have the understanding of basic like algorithms, basic structure, that how that code is being written. More importantly, as a DevOps engineer, you should be efficient to know how the code repositories are managed. Because developer to aapko code repo ke andar hi dega. How these repositories are getting managed, you need to understand. And for that, my like hardly recommending is learn code. It can be OS dependent, it can be OS independent. When it comes to OS dependent, I would highly recommend to go ahead with Bash. Bash scripting sikho. It will be very much easy because, as I said, many of the like production environment, majorly of the production environment have Linux, so you can easily run Bash. If it is Windows, definitely you have to learn PowerShell. But the option here is you can also learn the OS independent language. Python, Ruby, Go. There is a bunch of lists that you can go ahead. But if you are the one who doesn't even know about a single baseline of coding, Python के साथ start करो, it will be very much easy and helpful for you. And parallelly, जब भी coding की बात आएगी, I highly recommend you all to study the basics of DSA. At least make yourself strong that your college curriculum is more than enough. तो जो कॉलेज में तुम लोग DSA पढ़ते हो उतना भी बहुत है if you are stepping into the DevOps engineer shoes. But definitely I highly recommend these two things. Coding भी करनी है और DSA भी अपना strong रखना ही रखना है if you are looking yourself to be a DevOps engineer. Next part. The most and the must part for a DevOps engineer is to learn version control system, because you are coming out of the people who are going to support a lot of coders out there. The developer's responsibility will be on your shoulder. So there are multiple VCS available. The foremost and the most important part in today's world will be Git. So go ahead and start learning Git. If you are not compatible with Git, I guess hardly 4 to 5 hours, if you invest, you can be perfection in it. You can get the perfection in it. So just go ahead and start learning Git. Mercurial, Apache SVN, there are a lot of other VCS also available. If you know, it's well and good, but I highly recommend you to learn and go ahead and start learning Git itself. So let's move on to the second topic. The second is build. कि अब code आपके पास आ गया. As I said in the beginning, that if you are a DevOps engineer and stepping yourself into the developer shoes, the most important part is there any automated testing which is involved or not? अगर आंसर yes है तो भी ठीक है, नहीं है तो भी ठीक है. वो उन्होंने कोड को टेस्ट किया. So developers tested their code. Now you have to build that package. You have to help them to build their package. Or even if you are not helping, you should be having an understanding that how the package managers work, how they are building the packages. So basically, understanding of build tools and package manager for a DevOps engineer is always a plus point, because company look for these people who have a knowledge of build tools and package manager. I highly recommend you to go ahead and start learning Maven if you want to kick off your journey in this. However, Gradle and NPM are some other package manager which are quite popular in the open source space as well. But Maven is something that everybody uses. So you can always reach out to the companies, and Maven if you aspire to be a DevOps engineer, Maven will give you an extra edge over the others if you mention in your resume. The third part, test and release. Because if your code is done, your package manager has built the code, you as a DevOps engineer need to make ensure that the application, before it jump onto the production, it needs to be rightly tested. And when it comes to the testing, once the test is released, the notification is sent to the developers as well as the admin that, hey, the testing is completed. Now we are ready for the production. We are ready to go and deploy it on the production servers. So for the most important part, you have to create a build automation that typically says CI, continuous integration server. So you have to create this pipeline of building a CI server. And for build automation, I believe the understanding of Jenkins is the must for your DevOps engineer role. However, GitLab for releases, these things are also quite popular nowadays. Like Azure DevOps has come in, GitHub Actions are there. These will be also an add-on, but Jenkins is something that everybody is familiar and people are using in the environment. So Jenkins is something that you all should look for as well. The third and the foremost and the big plus in the testing and releasing phase of a DevOps engineer is that big knowledge, or a big plus, the knowledge on Selenium testing, JUnit testing, typically your testing tools. I don't see, like, even if you don't know, it is absolutely fine. कोई दिक्कत नहीं है अगर नहीं भी आता है, it is absolutely fine. But having a basic understanding of like JUnit or Selenium testing will give a like high edge on your profile to claim yourself to be a DevOps engineer, because these are the testing tools that companies recommend when it comes to the production environment before your application get tested through multiple different testing schemes that company built. But yes, this will be a very extra add-on for you as well. Let's take on the fourth perspective, which is deploy. So how the deployment works. So basically, you as a DevOps engineer have to decide that it is going to be an on-prem deployment or it is going to be on the cloud. Definitely the cost cutting, the comparison, the feature compatibilities, you guys have to understand. And that you can only get when you have a right battle cards for you. So I see many of the students just get themselves trained on one OS and they simply start rating that, hey, I'm like system admin for RHEL, or taking an example of RHEL. So you need to understand what are the basic differences between the different OS distribution. Similar thing when it comes to the infrastructure provisioning, you have to understand that what kind of deployment you are going to suggest to your clients, to your organization, कि on-prem करें या cloud पे करें या VMware करें या hypervisor पे करें या VMs को include करेंगे या नहीं करेंगे. So that call you have to take. So majorly, if it is cloud, definitely public cloud is something that you should all learn. AWS is highly recommended because many of the production people you will be encountering as a student or as a professional, AWS will be existing. However, the other tools like being offered by Azure or GCP, IBM, Alibaba is the new venture, and many more. The list goes endless. But yes, AWS will help you to get started, and then you can start preparing your battle cards, that what facility in which name AWS, Azure, GCP, IBM, and Alibaba offer. What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? What are the services are available in this and that cloud? These understanding will ultimately help you to land up in a good job profile for a DevOps engineer. Even understanding of a private cloud environment, OpenStack is also recommended because here you understand the basic OS functionalities. तुम्हें basic commands का समझ में आएगा कि how the actual operations are working, how the operational people typically thinks, how an organization decide whether I should use this service or not. And majorly in today's world, the cost plays a very important role. So you have to suggest your organization as a DevOps engineer that what kind of ideal deployment they should look for. Now, we just talked about containers, the benefit of containers, I believe everybody know over here. But more importantly, if you as a DevOps engineer also need to understand about the container repo. Docker Hub is the most highly recommended because this is a public offering that anybody can use. Go to dockerhub.io and you download the image. What I'm recommending you, also start learning about Nexus and Quake, which are the newest version, which after Docker becoming the enterprise tool, people have started utilizing. Because understand from the organization perspective, everybody needs the security. They don't want to completely rely on the open source world. वो जाकर के हर चीज public domain से download नहीं कर सकते. They also have certain restrictions. So to battle that restrictions, what kind of private repositories are available? So Docker Hub, Nexus, Quake, the list is also endless. But Docker Hub is something you as a DevOps engineer should be expert on. So that's the most important part. Last but not the least, to manage your container repository, container engine is important. So Docker and Podman, these two I highly recommend. If you know Docker, start learning Podman, because daemon-less tool. In today's world, Podman is something that everybody works on. Docker is again a standard tool that is still there in the market and it will be there. Understand how Podman gives you benefit over Docker. What are the different tools and services that Podman gives you, Docker doesn't gives you. So start comparison between these two. If you know any of these, it's absolutely fine. But as an experienced fellow, I would highly recommend you to start practicing Docker and Podman all together. You should need to understand. Now, when you have a lot of environment infrastructure, operationals role plays a very important role. That what kind of operation I should work on, kaise operation mere paas honge, what kind of responsibility I'll be having. सबसे important चीज, infrastructure provisioning. So I highly recommend you, if you are the one who is hired and who is going to provision an infrastructure, learn Terraform, the best tool that you have for your infrastructure provisioning. I know that many of you knows me, and as you know that I work for Red Hat, and many of people are attached to Ansible. Hey, giving you an answer, Ansible is a configuration management tool. When it comes to infrastructure provisioning, yes, it can does. But do check out that how Ansible help you to do the infrastructure provisioning. But in the IT industry world, because this is something I am sharing out of my experience, infrastructure provisioning is being managed by Terraform on a very larger scale. So go ahead and check out Terraform if you want to get yourself started, because this is something that can help you to land the job at the right organization. But yes, talking about configuration management tool, bunch of tools are available. Ansible, Puppet, Chef. Ansible has a growing market, is the more stable technology, as easily configurable tool as well. Because single tool can help me to automate my Linux environment, my Windows, my networking devices, as well as any API tool which tool has an API exposed. It can easily help you to automate. So when you are learning any configuration management tool, understand the integration part. And when I say integration, like how Jenkins can be easily integrated with Ansible, just go to docs.ansible.com and you can find all the case studies. Understand that how Ansible can help you to automate your Windows devices. What is this chocolatey is all about? Just go ahead and check out the Ansible page on YouTube, or I should say docs.ansible.com, and it has plenty of examples. How Ansible scalability can be done, how engagement can be improved, and all these things you as a student or as an experienced fellow need to understand that how Ansible engine, Ansible tower works. So that's the most important part when it comes to configuration management. Third part is container management, because many of the people don't understand this part, that when it comes to container management, you have two things. Now, one thing is your production environment is up and running, might be on container also. Or even if you are shifting, that definitely will be good. Like if you are creating a greenfield project, definitely that helps. But what if I'm already having my production server running up and running? In that case, you have to identify that how you're going to manage your containers. If it is a very small environment, I highly recommend go with Docker Swarm or Docker Compose, because this is something that can easily help you to manage your small infrastructure for testing or for UAT or for training purposes. But however, when it comes to large microservices deployment, you have to go for Kubernetes, and Kubernetes is must to learn. I hope many of you are connected to me and to other creators as well. And we all have been talking about CNCF landscape, and Kubernetes is something to look out for. I highly recommend you all go to Kubernetes. And also, even if you are looking to learn about Docker or Kubernetes or the Podman, I have done a video on talking about free learning resources on my channel. Do check that out. I have provided enough links, spaces, and the two specific websites where you have live scenario created. You can go ahead and learn, and that is highly recommended by Red Hat also. You go out, and these are the public offerings. Go out and check that learning video link also. That will be easy for you to navigate and get started with your Kubernetes and Docker part as well, or I should say container part as well. So this is about operations. So if you are an individual who is looking for a DevOps engineer profile, I highly recommend you to try out these three tools for sure: Terraform, Ansible, and Kubernetes. These are must for any DevOps engineer. Now, last but not the least, the most important part for any DevOps engineer is that your application is running fine, your deployment is perfect, your development is going good, your test builds and everything is fine. monitoring plays a very important role, because you as a DevOps engineer need to understand the tracking performances, how to do the health check for your entire production or for the cluster matter. And you should be understanding that if any problems come, how I'm going to discover the issue, how I'm going to understand that what kind of issue has arrived in the pipeline. And that's where these famous like monitoring tools can definitely help you in our learning. Prometheus, Nagios, Grafana, Datadog, Splunk are the most recommended ones. I highly recommend you to try out Prometheus and Grafana at least. These tools, I would say that experienced people can definitely learn. For students, you can still give a go ahead. But yes, if you are looking for a complete DevOps roadmap, you can get started with one of these. Grafana is the most easiest to learn, according to me. But however, depends on your choice what kind of job profile you are looking for. So experienced fellow definitely have Prometheus and Grafana in their bucket if you are representing yourself as a DevOps engineer. This will be giving you an extra edge on the other candidates as well. And Splunk, I guess if you know Splunk, this is a high additive advantage for a DevOps engineer. So do check that out, these part also in terms of monitoring as well. Now, as you said, we were talking about code, build, test, release, deploy, operation, monitor. This picture is familiar to everyone. And this is the way how we say the entire DevOps life cycle works, the infinite loop of DevOps. Developer and operational. DevOps is a set of practices, methods, or rather I would say it is bridging the gap between developers and the operation fellow by adopting the certain best practices. कि कैसे हम लोग अपने कुछ ऐसे methods को use करके अपनी life easier करें. It is never ending process for sure, because nobody wants to stop improving, nobody wants to stop learning as well. So you need to understand that what kind of a DevOps engineer you want to be. You need not to do the coding, but coding will play an important role, an integral role in your job profile. So start learning the basics of coding. So as I said, cheers with Gaurav, some special tips and advices for you all. Learn code and DSA. This is the foremost and the most important part, that you should learn coding and the DSA. Now you can get started with Python, and even if you feel कि यार मेरे को Python भी नहीं आती and I don't want to learn, I highly recommend you to go with the Python frameworks. Django and Flask are the most famous one, and Django बहुत easy है learn करने के लिए. Go ahead and start learning. If you are famous with Java, Spring Boot has a very big time now. People are recommending or searching for the people who knows having the knowledge of Spring Boot. And even if the developers are getting hired, DevOps engineer, you need to understand that why Spring Boot is becoming famous in the market. JavaScript and Node.js, definitely they are the ones who people always think for. Do check out this part. The second advice, make your best friend Linux. When I say Linux, I highly recommend you all to try out the different flavors of distribution. One, it will give you a broader perspective. Second, an additive advantage in this OS section of your resume. मतलब अगर तुम लोग RHEL जानते हो, definitely start trying out Fedora and CentOS, because they are belongs to the similar family. Or even if you talk about Oracle Linux, or if you talk about Kali Linux, which is a derivative again from Debian. So you need to understand the OS family they belongs to. Like Fedora is the upstream for RHEL, and now we have the CentOS stream and then RHEL. Understand this hierarchy and start exploring those things. It will definitely give you an additive advantage. So make Linux as your friend, and if you can get started with the Windows Server, who can stop you to be the DevOps engineer? The third and the foremost part is, when it comes to the DevOps engineer, I highly recommend all the students and the experienced fellow learn the basics of OS concept. क्योंकि तुम्हें ही इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को मैनेज करना है. So the people who are aspiring have the basic understanding of web servers like Apache, Nginx, Tomcat. Start learning about SSH, what SSH means to you, how you're going to manage the keys, how you can automate those processes. You need to understand the basic understanding of networking. अब networking बहुत बड़ा term है. That do I recommend you to go ahead and start learning about CCNA? No. Do I need to just learn what it is being taught to my college? No. You have to bridge that gap कि तुम्हें जो कॉलेज में नेटवर्किंग पढ़ाई जा रही है प्लस जो CCNA की डिमांड है, how the application is deployed, how the web server is working, how the network traffic flow happens. If I have to discover any port, if I have to discover any service, if I have to trace any application flow, these things you need to understand as a DevOps engineer, because this is going to help you to be a better system admin, IT operational, network security guy everywhere. So basically you need to understand कि DevOps engineer की just job role ये नहीं है कि वो अपने नाम के आगे DevOps लगा लेता है. You are bridging a gap. So you need to understand that how the flow of the entire architecture is happening for your application and for your infra. So I highly recommend you to go ahead and start learning networking. Also, most important part is logging, because if anything goes wrong, people will come to you and they will ask you, what is this issue is all about. So you need to detect those issues. Logging plays a very important role. Understanding of different file systems, कि भाई Linux के अंदर अगर आप आ रहे हो, if you know just only ext3, ext4 or XFS, no, you need to understand FAT32, NTFS and many others as well. Also, there are the different file systems that production uses. Go out and check out. For a beginner, I highly recommend you to try 3 to 4, which are the basics and the most demandable. But for the experienced fellow, you need to understand distributed file system also, and this is going to give you an additive advantage over others as well. Cache, yes, you need to understand sockets, threading, basic kernel level troubleshooting, proxy, DNS, load balancers. These are must to go for any DevOps engineer. I believe these are something that everybody should talk about. Last but not the least, this is the most important part. Git तो सबको आना ही चाहिए, चाहे DevOps हो, चाहे admin हो, चाहे developer हो. I think you all should not miss the version control system and Git. You should talk about Git. I haven't seen the comments, but I guess many of you must be querying कि यार पूरा 1 घंटे का सेशन दे दिया, but हमें कोई रोड मैप तो दिया ही नहीं. I am here. Don't worry. Before I leave, I present you the team which I have been working, and I have created this roadmap. You can go in the video description and there is a download link for this entire DevOps roadmap. So this is basically what we call at CWG is the ideology of DevOps, that you as a beginner, what you should try. If you want to try out the languages, Java, Python, Go, and if you are looking for web development languages, what it should be, make your Linux as your friend. If you want to learn about the OS concept, start talking about sockets, start talking about threading, networking, file system, everything. So I have tried to accumulate the entire presentation in a very small DevOps roadmap. Go ahead and download this link for you. It is in the video description. Check this out. And a very special thanks to Anant, who happens to be my teammate at CWG. Also, he has helped me in creating this entire roadmap for you all. The designing and every single thing, putting in a very nicely structured. He has helped me throughout. So a big thanks and a shout out to Anant. And if Anant, you are watching, thank you. And for others, please do Anant OP in the chat as soon as I land it out. So last but not the least, what I want to say is DevOps is not a goal to be achieved, but a never-ending process of continual improvement. Start learning and exploring the tools which I have talked or which I have missed. More interestingly, you should keep on learning. For students, do touch on the basic part, learn coding, any language, DSA, Git, need to be learned. Then talk about the basic OS distribution. Start talking about learning about some of the tools like monitoring tools like Prometheus and Grafana. And everything is available on the internet. You need not to pay it about. Just go ahead and start learning. More importantly, if you're new to the channel, please like, share, and subscribe to Cheers with Gaurav. And if you like this video, please go ahead and share it with your friends that, hey, there is some nice content regarding the DevOps engineer. Please go ahead and check this out as well. So that's it about the presentation part. Let's talk about if any of the questions are there. I'll be more than happy to answer them up. Oh my God, there is a lot of chat which I have missed. So Shlok is here. Hey, thank you so much for being here, Shlok. Deepak, what I should say. Sneha is also here. Hey, Sneha, thank you so much for joining. Sham is also here. Shloka. Oh, I missed the sound. Sorry about the starting that I missed the sound. Upender is here. Okay, Shloka is having some fun out there, huh? My branch is DevOps. Definitely, it's me as well. Shloka, definitely you must mention DevOps is developer and operational team working together. But I hope now you have a better understanding what it can be. Hey, Shamsher is also here. Hey, Shamsher, kudos to your good work. And thank you so much for everybody for guiding on Istio. Guys, go ahead and connect with Shamsher for amazing stuff on Istio as well. And you can also check out our video that we did for a software engineer life. Go ahead and check it out. Now, Dave is also here. Hey, Dave, thank you so much for joining. Let me take some of the serious questions. Okay. I have one question talking about Shlok. Also wanted to know about MLOps at the tech if possible. I definitely don't know about MLOps, but let me start talking to the people who knows, and I'll definitely bring some expert, the right industry expert who knows about MLOps. Pramod is here. Hey, Pramod, thank you so much for joining. Who can become a DevOps practitioner? What are the tools required and how to start the careers? As I said, I believe I have covered the entire roadmap. Go ahead and start. We have highlighted number one point for all the beginners. If you want to go ahead and start, I believe that will help you. Go and check out the video description, and big kudos to Anand for framing that out for me. Also, AI Ops. Okay, हम AI Ops भी कर लेंगे, क्या ही दिक्कत है. उसके बाद श्लोक जी पूछ रहे हैं, is pipeline and workflow are the same? To be open, no. So pipeline, अगर तुम लोग मेरे से पूछो, so what is this pipeline is all about? Pipeline is basically flowing of one traffic to the other, where workflow is the design from start to end. Many people think that Jenkins help you to create the workflow. No, Jenkins is basically helping you to build that pipeline to connect the two different processes, like one input and other output. On the other side, workflow is nothing but a start to end process. And again, getting back, because DevOps methodology works in that way. And if you know about the cloud maturity model, I highly recommend you to go ahead and start learning about cloud maturity model, which says like waterfall, then it comes to agile, and then it comes to DevOps. So how it actually works. So go out and check out that as well. Shamsher, thank you so much for helping us, as you always does. Shlok has a lot of question. Apps are configured through pom.xml file, right? Answer to that will be typically no, because there are a lot of like developers who it's their own tools that they use. So it can be anything, but like typically if you consider it, yes, you can consider it, no problem. Then it next comes to, it can be serverless as instead of server deployment. So serverless doesn't mean it is not deployed on the server. To correct that part as well. And I guess on serverless, I'm planning very soon a very session where I'm going to talk about stateless and serverless application. Wait for 15-20 days and you have that session for you from me as well. Infrastructure includes everything about cloud. No. On-prem, virtualization, containers, cloud, anything it can be. So what they've mentioned, hello, all well? Yes, Vedant sir is here. Hey Vedant, thank you so much for joining. Okay, DevOps, no code, but get ready to learn infrastructure as a code. Definitely. That's why I said everybody has this thing in mind कि DevOps आ गया तो हमें कोडिंग नहीं करनी पड़ेगी. No. और मुझे कोडिंग आती नहीं थी, शायद तक मैंने सिंबल भी पता नहीं कैसे यूज किया है, बट मेरे हिसाब से मैंने अपना पूरा दिमाग लगा करके इसको थोड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग बनाया. सो प्लीज चेक इट आउट. Okay, is there something else we have? Shamsher has part that unit tests are always automated, so you don't need to do the manual testing. Yes, absolutely agree. Okay, I guess we need to collab once more with Shamsher as well, because he has some interesting stuff to tell you all. So SonarQube, and I guess Shamsher has already answered. So thank you so much for helping me out there, buddy. Now, okay, Divyansh has created something good. Podman run IT cheers with God of latest eco. Hello. Yeah, chaya. I love this. And this is going to be a very new idea I'm going to discuss tomorrow. Okay. Is this Prometheus? Yes, that is Prometheus. If I misspelled it, so sorry. Girish, hey Girish, how are you? Which one you recommend? CKAD and DO280. यार दोनों अपने अपने space के best हैं. CKAD is moreover like where you want to talk about the development regarding Kubernetes, and DO280 deal with the OpenShift administration. So they are the totally different thing. So do check that out as well. Because and recently, I guess now CNCF community has also started giving the exam stimulators. So this becomes very much easy. On the other side, I have also done a video where I compared DO180, 280, 288, and 425, which are the container offering in terms of certification and exam from Red Hat. Do check that out video, Girish. That can help you in understanding the right differentiation. And just leave the comment if you want me to create a video where I can talk about CKD, CK, CKS, and on the other side, what are the different competitive offering. I'll be more than happy to do that as well. Okay, now Divyansh has one part. EL के stack Prometheus, Grafana, Thanos. सच में यही है, Thanos वाला ही काम है इन सब का यार, बहुत ज़्यादा. Node.js OP, definitely I highly recommend you people, because nowadays I see a very arc towards the Node.js, and people are highly recommending it. So do check that out as well. Shlok is mentioning Red Hat has also its Linux flavor. So yes, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, I highly recommend. Go ahead and start talking about lab.redhat.com. It is a free Linux learning resource. Go out and check. It will be very much easy for you. Okay. Is there something else? Chetan is there. Hey, Chetan, how are you? I'm working as a build and a release engineer. Will DevOps will be the next role? Yes, it can be, because this is somewhere you are already there. You just have to iterate few of the tools, learnings, and you can be a DevOps engineer. Definitely, I highly recommend you all. And Chetan, just ping me offline, my LinkedIn, Twitter, or something. Instagram, you can find me in the description. Do check that out and reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy to answer that as well. So definitely, Harsh, we are already planning this video talking about DevOps to SRE very soon. So I don't want to spoil that part, but yes, I am giving you a hint. Very soon you will have a detailed video on DevOps to SRE, because yes, site reliability engineer is very much close to the DevOps profile, but there is a thin line to understand, and I'm going to talk about in a detailed video for sure. Yes. So Simachal is there. Hey, Simachal. Sir, I'm working as a Linux admin in an MNC. What are the future career options for me? I have a 1 year experience. What is a good time to switch? So a good time to switch, I don't think that I can decide for you. You just go ahead and start learning about the different tools that I mentioned. If you are a Linux admin, what kind of typical job responsibilities you have, what kind of clients you deal with, what kind of production environments you handle, what kind of cloud that you have served, I highly recommend you to try your skill sets on what I would say cloud. That will be one thing. Start learning about the tools which everybody uses in their practice. So this will be a very much important and next step for you. Definitely senior Linux admin, you can also talk about security, because you as a Linux admin, I definitely know that you must be encountering a lot of security flows. So do check out the security engineers profile, and that can also help you to go ahead. Networking can be one thing, that if you are famous in your team to talk about networking engineering is also the way that you can look for. So these are some of the things. Learning recommendation, I have created a learning video, Simachal, if you want to check that, you can check it out. I'm working, and let me tell you, like, few of the people are listening me, and you might watch the video later. If you give me or if you suggest me, if you want me to create a DevOps learning suggestions video, means what I want to say is all the talks that we have done, like talking about code repository, we're talking about Git, we are talking about Gradle, we are talking about NPM, Terraform, Ansible, OpenShift, Yevo. If you want me to create a video to provide free learning resources on how to learn and how to get started with DevOps, I'm putting myself on a like that if this video gets 100 likes or 100 thumbs up, I'll highly create that video for you. I'll bring a DevOps expert who has helped me in creating this journey. Anant will be also there, definitely. I will create a video where we are going to talk about the free learning resources for learning DevOps, getting started with DevOps. But I need a target from you, just a favor, just create that 100 likes on this video, and I'll create it for sure. Thank you so much. And the last but not the least, Anant has, can you make a video on Terraform? Terraform pe kar denge sir, koi baat hi nahi hai. Definitely, I'll reach out to one of my friend who has a Terraform expert. So definitely watch out in the space. So before I say goodbye, as everybody says, like, share, and subscribe to my channel. So stay tuned for the new videos update. And from tomorrow onwards, there will be a lot of videos that are going to post for technical space and many other fun activities. Stay tuned. And more importantly, what I should say before I say cheers, whenever you get some time, go ahead and get vaccinated. बहुत जरूरी है यार, जाओ अपने loved ones के साथ time spend करो. Friday is done. Wait out for Saturdays and Sunday. Some awesome streams are planned up for you. I hope I just pray for your loved ones and for you to be a better health. Thank you so much, guys. Stay tuned for the new videos. Cheers. Signing off. Cheers with Gaurav. Thank you.